Hi, I'm Juana, and I want to welcome you to the main image optimization module. Now, this module will be part of the click-through rate optimization that we will be discussing alongside with the price strategy and the title optimization. Before we get into this, I want to mention why main image optimization is important and non-negotiable, which is going to be also our first topic for today. Now, why main image optimization is non-negotiable? You need to think about it like this. When you grow your brand on Amazon, it doesn't just mean you need to get more sales. It's getting more profit while you are also growing. And I know there will be a difference between when you need to grow and then when you need to focus on profitability. It will always be a sort of balance in between the two, but that's the only scoreboard that really matters. And of course, the best way to grow your profit isn't more PPC, because PPC comes from acquisition costs that, of course, eat your profit. The real leverage and your real focus, especially when you need to focus on profitability, is organic sales. Now, because every unit that you sell organically without having to pay for every click adds revenue directly to your account. So, of course, profit is the goal. Organic sales are the path. And to grow organic sales, of course, you need to keep in mind that we will need to focus on three main KPIs. The first is the click-through rate, the conversion rate, and of course, the sales velocity in exactly this order. Now, the first domino all starts with the click. Customers cannot buy your product if they don't see it, right? And when it comes to optimizing for getting more clicks, your main image decides if you get seen or, of course, skip. Now, here's the thing. Of course, when we look at click-through rate, in this module, we will be talking mostly about the main image optimization. We will focus on that. But we know when it comes to getting more clicks and getting visibility on Amazon, images are what attracts. But then there are other smaller factors, let's call like that shoppers will evaluate before clicking on your account. And that is the title, the price, and of course, the number of reviews and the star rating that you have. These are the most important things that influence customers' behavior and if they decide whether to click on your product or go directly to a competitor. Now, when it goes to more clicks and getting back to the optimization for the main image, everything downstream multiplies. Of course, more traffic flows into your listing. You get more clicks, you get attention, right? So I always say, make sure that you don't find yourself in the sea of same, right? And why is that? You need to attract more traffic. You need to be original and make sure that you attract customers' eyes. Because if you get more clicks at the same conversion rate, then that means that all the traffic that increases translate into more sales. More sales fuels how Amazon sees your product being more popular, right? Let's call it like that. And of course, that translates in you ranking higher because more sales build momentum and of course, accelerate velocity. Remember, we just mentioned click-through rate, conversion rate, and then sales velocity that impact organic sales. So velocity pushes your rank higher. Therefore, you are more visible. Therefore, you sell more. Higher ranks, of course, even more organic traffic. And one thing that I would want to mention at this point, remember that monitoring your organic positioning in order to understand how extra traffic is influencing your organic positioning is not negotiable. It's a must. And of course, that's the flywheel effect. That's what everybody wants. And it all starts with the image that attracts that click. Now, why does this matter? Because most sellers throw money at PPC and wonder why, profits stay flat. They'll relaunch, they'll, try hacks, and they'll obsess over the 10th bullet point, which is important for providing information. But first, you need to make sure that you get traffic to your page so it gets seen. And then, of course, you get to focus on the conversion rate. When it comes to optimizing your main image, the game flips, and that is because it's the fastest way to influence every critical metric that drives traffic to your pages. And it doesn't really cost extra budget. Yeah, of course, you may have some extra costs in creating the image, but it is limited. And it's not like you need to revamp or rebrand products. Most sellers, of course, just copy the bestseller and play it safe. Again, I mentioned in the Sea of Same earlier, make sure that you create disruptive images or add pieces of elements into your image, and we will go through that together, that become an unfair advantage, making sure that you track, again, the visibility on the search and you win the clicks. And this isn't, of course, one more thing to try. This is the first lever that makes everything else, PPC scaling, relaunching, all the hacks and ranking strategies actually work better. Yes, of course, at almost no risk, because we will guide you through the exact process in which you go to polling, like internal testing, and then, of course, A/B testing on Amazon to really understand the impact of the image changes. That's the kind of project you bet on if you're serious about your growth. Yes, let me actually say that again. That's exactly the kind of project you bet on if you're serious about growth. Now, the process. Very shortly. Phase 1, you find options. So we will go into research. I will show you how to pull data and actually understand what is important for customers in terms of the features and what we can use to create bold main images. The goal, of course, get noticed and get clicked. Phase 2, we will create the assets. We will focus on turning those ideas into creative briefs. So we will generate drafts. Easy. So in order to understand if that's something that we do want to test, help you get through that drafting process. And then, of course, test internally. It always comes down to data. It eliminates guesswork. And we need to understand what customers would prefer. What is your ideal shopper looking for when it searches for a product that it's yours or similar to yours on Amazon? And within 2 or 3 rounds of feedback, you'll have polished content that you can go directly into testing. Because yes, phase 3 says like a scientist. Again, data. You need to pick full product opinion, Intel AV, choose whatever you want or go with all 3 of them. But you need to make sure that you go through the polling process in order to pull data and understand what customers want. Of course, taking into consideration, I will show you the customer persona and the demographics specifically for your product. But here we want to eliminate weak options. We want to make sure that we gather as much data as possible and then we go into implementing. We take the winner after all the data pulling, the data processing and the testing. And of course, we A/B test it on Amazon. Once that we do that and we have more data around if that works, PPC, top of search performance, and brand analytics, catalog data, that's something that you will need to track constantly in order to understand the improvements and the extra visibility you got from it. If it wins, of course, you will lock it in. If not, we will need to repeat some of the pieces of the process itself. But the big picture is that Amazon's own science proves it. Yes, because click-through rate is the foundation of rank. There's an actual science paper on the amazonscience.com that talks about how important click-through rate is when it comes to ranking. Is actually the first because it monitors the interest that customers have on that product even before they go to buying. Yes, of course, Amazon systems are very smart and they are able to track and analyze the behavior of the customers, but it all starts with the click-through rate. That's the foundation of everything. No clicks means no sessions. Of course, no sessions means no sale, no velocity, therefore no ranking. That is why I'm actually going to highlight this in yellow because it is so important. And there are no doubts about that. So your main image is the lever that drives click-through rate. Not the only, but maybe the most important that attracts attention. And that is why we will focus on it. Change the image, you move click-through rate. Move click-through rate, of course, you get more traffic, you get more sales, and rank shifts. Traffic, then profit comes afterwards. Most sellers ignore this or copy the bestsellers photo. Don't do that. Try to be original and make sure that you utilize data in your advantage to create those type of assets that really drive traffic, extra traffic to your page. That's your edge because the image isn't decoration. It's the driver of the actual flywheel. This was just the beginning. It was just a taste of what's coming, and I will see you in the next part.